Namaskar and welcome to Midday Prime. In the next 1 hour, we'll bring you the stories and updates from India and the world. We'll update you about the happenings in the world of business and sports, and we'll get you some interesting stories that are making headlines. But first, the big news at this hour. Discussion on the motion of thanks to the President's address continues in the Lok Sabha. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to reply to the debate in the evening. The Rajya Sabha is adjourned as a tribute to the sitting member, late Madan Lal Saini, till 2 p.m. President, Prime Minister and senior leaders of various political parties expressed condolences on the demise of the BJP Rajasthan Unit President Madan Lal Saini. Last rites to take place this afternoon at his native district Sikkar. BJP's parliamentary party meeting stands cancelled. It is the last day to file nominations for the Rajya Sabha seats, for 6 Rajya Sabha seats in 3 states. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar files his nomination papers from Gujarat. Niti Aayog releases the second edition of Healthy States Progressive India Report. The report makes a comprehensive assessment of health in terms of outcomes and impact of policy interventions. Home Minister Amit Shah to visit Jammu and Kashmir on a 2-day visit will hold a high-level meeting on security issues with Governor Satyapal Malik. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to arrive in New Delhi tonight on a 3-day visit will hold talks with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. The visit comes amid rising U.S.-Iran tension as well as recent developments in trade relations between India and the United States. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu remember all those who fought against the imposition of emergency 44 years ago. The leaders call for strengthening democratic values. Prakash Javadekar says every generation should be told about the emergency. And in sports, arch rivals England and Australia will be facing each other at Lord's. It's a must-win game for the hosts, England. And the big story, well, Parliament resumes discussion on the motion of thanks to the President's address for the second day today. That discussion is going on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be replying in the Lok Sabha to the discussion of the motion of thanks to the President's address later this evening. And in the Rajya Sabha, well, it's resumed after being adjourned till 2 p.m. today as a mark of respect for the departed BJP member Madan Lal Saini. Saini, 75, died on Monday while undergoing treatment at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi. The decision to adjourn the upper house till 2 p.m. was taken this morning at a meeting of leaders of about 15 parties, which was chaired by the Rajya Sabha chairman Venkaiah Naidu. The government is keen that the debate on the motion of thanks to the President's address be completed on Tuesday to enable the Prime Minister to reply to the debate before he leaves for Japan for the G20 summit on Wednesday. And Lal Chandra Singh is now joining us with an update from Parliament. Well, Lal Chandra, what is the debate all about now? I mean, give us a few highlights.
Well, Mark, as we know that the discussion on motion of thanks on President's motion, on President's address is going on in Lok Sabha, and now it will be resuming in Rajya Sabha as well. So if we talk first about Lok Sabha, the representatives of different political parties who are actually designated to speak on this motion of thanks, they are addressing, and the opposition parties actually mainly criticizing the government on various issues, whether it is related to farmers' condition, whether it is related to the security, internal security issues. The representatives are actually criticizing the government, and the Treasury side they are supporting the President's speech, and as you said, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to reply in Lok Sabha around 5 p.m. on motion of thanks, and in Rajya Sabha, Prime Minister may reply tomorrow on President's motion of thanks. In between, Mark, I should say that there are two more events that two MPs from TMC, Mimi Chakrabarti and Nusrat Jahan, they have taken oath today as a member of parliament, and it is likely to that Home Minister Amit Shah will be introducing a bill related to foreign contribution in Lok Sabha. Mark?
Okay, but let's now come back to the debate, Lal Chandra. So you were saying that the opposition is using this as an opportunity to raise various issues. And you know, that is probably the structure of the debate in a sense. But is it, pertaining specifically to the address of the president, or, are they relating various issues that are unrelated in a sense to the president's address? And what are we expected to hear from the Prime Minister later this evening?
Well, one thing is very clear, that when opposition members are speaking on motion of thanks, sometimes they are not very to the point actually. They are raising the different issues which were not even included in President's address. And so far Prime Minister's reply is concerned, Prime Minister, and as we know that the Treasury side actually note down all the important issues raised by the opposition parties and their leaders. And the Prime Minister will be replying to the point, the issues, the main issues which are being raised by the opposition parties. And it may be a very interesting reply, Mark, as we have seen in the past. Whenever Prime Minister reply such a debate, it is actually very interesting. So everybody is actually waiting for Prime Minister's reply, which may take place around 5 p.m. in Lok Sabha. Mark?
Right, we leave it there. Thanks very much, Lal Chandra, for those inputs from the Lok Sabha. And moving on then to our next story, today is the last date for filing of nomination papers for the polls, the by-polls, that is to 6 Rajya Sabha seats, and these are in 3 states, which are Gujarat, Bihar and Odisha. And the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, and the OBC Youth Leader from Mehsana, Jugalji Thakur, they both filed their nomination papers as Bharatiya Janata Party candidates from Gujarat for the by-polls to the 2 Rajya Sabha seats from there today. Polling and counting of the seats for all 6 seats will be held on July 5.
प्रधानमंत्री के नेतृत्व में ये तो सब लोग जानते हैं कि भारत की प्रतिष्ठा जो है वो बड़ी है, और गुजरात उसमें भारत की सबसे माने प्रोग्रेसिव प्रगतिशील स्टेट मानी जाती है। तो ये मैं आज इतना ही कहूँगा कि अगर गुजरात का प्रतिनिधि बने राज्यसभा में, तो ये मेरे लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात होगी, बहुत गर्व की बात होगी। और मैं तो कोशिश करूँगा कि जितना मेरे साइड से गुजरात की प्रगति में मैं अपना कुछ कंट्रीब्यूशन कर पाऊँ, तो ये बहुत मेरे लिए बहुत बड़ी बात होगी।
And meanwhile, the Supreme Court today refused to entertain a plea of the Gujarat Congress leader against the decision of the Election Commission to hold separate by-polls for 2 vacant Rajya Sabha seats in the state. The court said that he may approach the Election Commission. And Meghna Dev is now joining us with an update on this story. Well, Meghna, the S. Jaishankar has filed his nomination papers as a Member of Parliament from Gujarat, and he's also mentioned in his press conference about the importance that Gujarat played, in terms of the role that India plays internationally as well. Put this into context for us, S. Jaishankar and his nomination papers from Gujarat.
Yes, Mark, absolutely. As we know, there were 2 seats vacant in Gujarat after the BJP President Amit Shah, who is now representing the Gandhinagar Lok Sabha seat, and Smriti Irani, who is now representing the Amethi seat. Both of them, when they were chosen in the Lok Sabha, now 2 seats were remaining vacant, for which obviously the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, has been fielded on 1 seat, and the other has been given to Jugalji Thakur, who is an OBC leader, and also a very young person at cadre of Gujarat also. So it also is very important to see this as in that perspective, that whenever a minister is sworn in and he is not a member of any of the houses of the parliament, then he has to be inducted into any of the houses, either houses of the parliament, within 6 months of time. So this is one of the reasons why Dr. S. Jaishankar was fielded from this vacant seat in Gujarat. And also very importantly, this is a casual vacancy which was created because both the leaders Amit Shah and Smriti Irani were chosen in the Lok Sabha. So these were the casual vacancies created, but the Congress had been saying that these are statutory vacancies and election should be held together, so that the Congress can also manage to have one seat out of the 2 seats which were lying vacant. But since it is very difficult for the Congress to actually manage to get any seat out of these 2 seats, because now these 2 elections will be held in the voting will be done in different separately, because these are casual vacancies, and even the Supreme Court has said the same, that these are casual vacancies, so the voting will be done differently. And all the MLAs, currently the strength in the Gujarat Assembly is almost 175, which the maximum strength is 182. So, and obviously the Bharatiya Janata Party has a majority in its hand and has the numbers in its hand. So both the seats will definitely be will definitely look like going to the Bharatiya Janata Party in this case. And obviously, when we know that the both seats which are lying vacant, Mark, I would like to also give you a background here. The both seats which are currently lying vacant in the Gujarat Rajya Sabha were the seats which had a very big controversy behind, because Ahmed Patel, these were the seats in which Ahmed Patel and Banwant Singh Rajput were head on, and the Congress had actually flown down all their MLAs to the Bangalore resort. So this was the same election in which post midnight the results had come when the Congress had gone to the Election Commission. So now these 2 seats are lying vacant, and obviously the BJP has fielded both its candidates, and the 5th of July will be the day when the MLAs will be voting.
Right, so it appears that this is a foregone conclusion then. You're saying that the 2 seats will be won by the BJP, and so let us understand a little bit also about you did say because the casual vacancies were available and it is necessary that a person who's made a minister should be made a member of the House as soon as possible, and this was a vacancy that was available. But the choice of Gujarat for a career diplomat who doesn't come from Gujarat, but he started by saying very clearly that Gujarat is playing an important role, Meghna, in India's international relations, because Gujaratis play an important role. It looks like we've lost our link, audio link with Meghna, but she did give us a comprehensive answer in her first answer. So moving on then, a career diplomat and former Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar has been hailed for his expertise on Indo-US relations, and he was handpicked also by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his government and was sworn in as the External Affairs Minister on May 30. He also played a key role in managing and troubleshooting many important international issues during his tenure as the Foreign Secretary. Let's look at this report.
The BJP named External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar as its candidate for Rajya Sabha seat from Gujarat hours after he joined the Saffron Party in the presence of Working President J.P. Nadda. Bypolls of 2 Rajya Sabha seats were necessitated after Union Cabinet Ministers Amit Shah and Smriti Irani were elected to the Lok Sabha, causing the vacancies. Diplomat turned External Affairs Minister, Jaishankar is the 2nd Foreign Secretary who has become External Affairs Minister after Natwar Singh. He is probably the first bureaucrat who has become a cabinet minister so soon after retirement. Also, he has been the longest serving Indian ambassador to China and played pivotal role in reinforcing economy, trade and cultural relations between the 2 countries. As Foreign Secretary, Jaishankar was known for his muscular policy with China. He shaped India's position on the Belt and Road Initiative, which had led to the boycott of the flagship BRI summit in Beijing. With more than 3 decades of diplomatic experience, he also has served as press secretary and speechwriter for former President of India, Shankar Dayal Sharma, and later attached limelight during his tenure as Indian ambassador to the US, where he played an initiative negotiator between US authorities and Indian government to mutually handle the diplomatic ties. He used his wide contacts and great tactics with the Washington bureaucracy in order to smooth out the crisis. Challenges would certainly be to deal with the trade dispute with US, as Washington is soon set to end the preferential trade treatment for India. The minister will also have to balance India's energy security needs and its relations with US over the issue of purchasing oil from sanction-hit Iran. Jaishankar will have to maintain the current positive momentum to project the position and power of India at global level. Bureau Report, DD News.
Well, on this day, 44 years ago, emergency was declared in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to Twitter to highlight how it was one of the darkest chapters in the history of the country. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said that India salutes all those greats who fiercely and fearlessly resisted the emergency. India's democratic ethos successfully prevailed over an authoritarian mindset.
लोकतंत्र में आपातकाल में क्या कुछ जुल्म नहीं हुए थे, इससे बड़ी धमकियां क्या होती, लेकिन ये देश झुका नहीं था। 1975 25 जून वो ऐसी काली रात थी जो कोई भी लोकतंत्र प्रेमी भुला नहीं सकता है, कोई भारतवासी भुला नहीं सकता है। एक प्रकार से देश को जेल खाने में बदल दिया गया था, विरोधी स्वर को दबोच दिया गया था। जयप्रकाश नारायण सहित देश के गणमान्य नेताओं को जेलों में बंद कर दिया था। न्याय व्यवस्था भी आपातकाल के उन भयावह रूप की छाया से बच नहीं पाई थी। अखबारों को तो पूरी तरह बेकार कर दिया गया था। आज के पत्रकारिता जगत के विद्यार्थी, लोकतंत्र में काम करने वाले लोग उन काले कालखंड को बार बार स्मरण करते हुए लोकतंत्र के प्रति जागरूकता बढ़ाने के निरंतर प्रयास करते रहे हैं और करते भी रहने चाहिए। इटर्नल विजिलेंस इज द प्राइस ऑफ लिबर्टी। लोकतंत्र के प्रति नित्य जागरूकता जरूरी होती है और इसलिए लोकतंत्र को आघात करने वाली बातों को भी स्मरण करना होता है और लोकतंत्र की अच्छी बातों की दिशा में आगे बढ़ना होता है।
And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has said that as the nation observes Anti-Emergency Day today, let us remember that fundamental rights and personal freedom remain the bedrock of a democratic society. An effective parliament, independent judiciary, accountable executive, free press, and informed and responsible citizenry are important pillars to protect and preserve the rights guaranteed under the Constitution. The younger generation must be aware of the dreaded events of emergency and be eternally vigilant to protect democracy, freedom, and the rights of fellow citizens. And moving on then, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has expressed his annoyance at the emergency being imposed in 1975. In a tweet, he said that in the year 1975 today, the country's democracy was murdered just for the sake of political gain. People's basic right was ripped and newspapers were locked down. Millions of patriots have faced torture to restore democracy. I salute all the fighters. And Union Minister Prakash Javadekar has slammed former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and the Congress party over the emergency. Let's listen to what he said.
44 साल पहले इसी दिन में कांग्रेस ने डॉक्टर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर द्वारा दिया गया संविधान को पूरा ध्वस्त करते हुए देश पर आपातकाल लादा था और उसमें प्रेस की आजादी खत्म की, व्यक्ति के विचार की आजादी खत्म कर दी, पूरे देश को जेल खाना बनाया और हजारों लाखों कार्यकर्ता उसके खिलाफ लड़े। जयप्रकाश जी, अटल जी, मोरारजी के नेतृत्व में।
And calling emergency the darkest period of democracy, the Union Minister Pratap Chandra Sarangi today criticized the decision by the former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi.
भारत की संविधान का अपमान किया गया, अदालत का राय को भी उपेक्षा करके अपना कार्यकाल को भी एक्सटेंड किया गया। मैं इसको मानता हूं गणतंत्र के खिलाफ सबसे बड़ी साजिश है, षड्यंत्र है और मैं इसको एक काला दिवस के रूप में मानता हूं। और जिन लोगों ने संघर्ष करके हमारे देश में पुनः गणतंत्र को उज्जीवित किया। इन सबको मैं आदर से प्रणाम करता हूं।
And the BJP MP Meenakshi Lekhi has said that it is necessary for the present generation to know about emergency as it curbed the freedom of citizens.
पूरे देश को याद करना है क्योंकि बहुत बड़ी जनसंख्या तो इमरजेंसी के बाद पैदा हुई है और उनको शायद पता भी नहीं कि क्या क्या अत्याचार इस देश में संविधान को हटाकर मौलिक सिद्धांतों को अलग थलग कर इंदिरा गांधी के समय पर कांग्रेस पार्टी ने लागू किए थे।
On the 44th anniversary of the emergency, the working president of the BJP, JP Nadda, paid respects to the thousands of unsung heroes who struggled and led the movement during the emergency, the movement against the emergency. In his tweet, he said that on this day in 1975, to fulfill its political aspirations and to merely stay in power, the then Congress government declared an emergency, and that it is a black spot on the great democracy of India. Recalling the dark days of the emergency, the Union Minister Ram Vilas Paswan said today that it was a time of uncertainty when all the leading opposition of that time, those leaders, including the likes of Jayaprakash Narayan, Atal Bihari Vajpayee and many others, were imprisoned. And he said that they were not sure of what was going to happen to them. Emergency was imposed by the former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi on this very day in 1975. It's been 44 years since that day.
जो इमरजेंसी लगी थी 1975 में, जिसमें हम लोग जो है 17-18 महीने जेल में थे और लोकनायक जयप्रकाश नारायण, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी को, मोरारजी भाई देसाई को, सारे के सारे चौधरी चरण सिंह, कर्पूरी ठाकुर, हम सब लोग क्या कहते हैं कि बंद थे और कभी सोचते भी नहीं थे कि जय जीते जिंदगी जो है इमरजेंसी जो है हम जेल से बाहर आएंगे।
The Kaveri Water Management Authority, which is the supreme body with powers on storage, regulation and control of Kaveri water, today held a discussion. It's headed by the chairman Masood Hussain, and the meeting was focused on the storage situation in reservoirs and a severe water crisis which has gripped Tamil Nadu. The Kaveri Water Management Authority had directed Karnataka to release 9.19 thousand million cubic feet of water to Tamil Nadu in May to fill up the reservoirs. However, only 1.72 thousand million cubic feet of water has flown from the Bilugundulu reservoir to the Mettur Dam. And with a weak monsoon now aggravating the storage situation in the reservoirs, it is high time to deal with this water crisis effectively and people that's affecting people widely. Well, in the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, he is going to arrive in New Delhi on a 3-day visit today, later in the day, and he is likely to discuss issues of trade with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and with his counterpart, the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. This visit, in fact, comes amid rising US-Iran tensions and also the recent developments in trade relations between India and the United States.
US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is coming to India on a 3-day visit today. The visit is focused on trade, defense, and to further strategic ties between the two countries. This visit is taking place in light of the frictions between US and Iran. US sees India as a crucial partner in Trump administration's vision that looks forward to a path of a free and open Indo-Pacific region. Also, as it is concerned about the challenges to shared interest in the region, making this visit crucial for both sides. Pompeo will be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his counterpart, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. The visit is the first high-level meeting with the US after NDA's return to power for a second term. US Secretary Pompeo's visit will provide an opportunity and importance for both sides to explore ways to further strengthen the India-US strategic partnership and continue the high-level engagement on matters of mutual interest. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Union Home Minister Amit Shah will be visiting Jammu and Kashmir for the first time after taking charge of the Ministry of Home Affairs. He will be on a 2-day visit to Jammu and Kashmir beginning tomorrow. The Home Minister will preside over a high-level security meeting in Srinagar, and during this visit he will also address BJP party workers and members of the Panchayat separately. The Home Minister is scheduled to meet the Governor of the state, Satyapal Malik, to discuss with him the current security situation in the state. And Shailendra Mishra now joins us with an update on this story. Well, Shailendra, it's an important meeting, as we can see. Put it into context for us, because it's the first meeting of the first visit, in fact, of the Home Minister Amit Shah to Jammu and Kashmir. It also comes a day after Parliament, you know, there was that important bill on reservations for Jammu and Kashmir. Amendment bill was presented. Also, the mood in Jammu and Kashmir has changed considerably, and there seems to be a mood of peace to a large extent. Put it into context for us.
बिल्कुल मार्किन, हम जानते हैं कि गृह मंत्री अमित शाह कल दोपहर जम्मू कश्मीर के दौरे पर पहुंचने वाले हैं। उच्च स्तरीय सुरक्षा बैठक की अध्यक्षता करेंगे। राज्यपाल से अलग से मुलाकात भी होगी, और जो घाटी में हाल के दिनों में जो बदलाव आया है, खासतौर पर सुरक्षा की स्थिति में जो सुधार हुआ है, उसको लेकर यह बैठक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण मानी जा रही है। और जानते हैं कि पहला दौरा है गृह मंत्री के तौर पर अमित शाह का, तो ऐसे में तमाम दिशा निर्देश दिए जाने की भी उम्मीद है। और चूंकि अमरनाथ यात्रा भी शुरू होने वाली है, तो उसको लेकर भी अलग से तैयारियों को लेकर समीक्षा बैठक होगी। और राज्य में जो पिछले कुछ महीनों में जो बदलाव देखने को मिला है, सीधे तौर पर संवाद भी बीजेपी कार्यकर्ताओं और पंचायत के प्रतिनिधियों के साथ गृह मंत्री अमित शाह करने वाले हैं। तो निश्चित तौर पर उस लिहाज से देखें तो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण दौरा है, चूंकि जैसा कि आपने कहा कि ये दौरा ऐसे समय हो रहा है जब कल ही लोकसभा में जम्मू कश्मीर आरक्षण संशोधन विधेयक पेश किया गया, जिसमें अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सीमा के पास रहने वाले जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को भी आरक्षण के लाभ का प्रावधान है। तो निश्चित तौर पर तमाम जो उपाय किए गए हैं केंद्र सरकार की तरफ से जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों के लिए, उस परिप्रेक्ष्य में भी देखें तो गृह मंत्री अमित शाह का दौरा बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है, क्योंकि अमरनाथ यात्रा की जो तैयारियां हैं उसको लेकर भी समीक्षा बैठक होनी है।
Right. Tell us a little bit more about that particular meeting on the Amarnath Yatra security, because this is an important aspect, considering that there are two routes and also the security that is provided on the routes, and a number of pilgrims, lakhs of pilgrims actually participate in this yatra.
बिल्कुल, हम जानते हैं कि राज्य सरकार के जो तैयारियां हैं, उस पर जो इनपुट है, उसके लिहाज से तमाम सुरक्षा व्यवस्था मुहैया कराई गई है। और 1 लाख से ज्यादा सुरक्षा कर्मी इस यात्रा को सुचारू रूप से संपन्न कराने के लिए लगाए गए हैं, और किस तरह से जो है पूरी यात्रा शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से हो और यात्रियों को दिक्कत ना उठानी पड़े, उसके लिए तमाम तैयारियां की गई हैं। जो अमरनाथ यात्रा को लेकर जो तैयारी की जो समीक्षा बैठक होगी, उसमें जो यात्रियों की सुविधा हो, उसके लेकर जो तमाम उपाय किए गए, उस पर भी विस्तार से बातचीत हो सकती है। तो निश्चित तौर पर गृह मंत्री अमित शाह के दौरे के दौरान अमरनाथ यात्रा की तैयारियों को लेकर भी समीक्षा बैठक होगी।
Right, thanks very much Shailendra Mishra for putting that into context for us. Let's move on to our next story. And Niti Aayog today released the second edition of Healthy States Progressive India report in New Delhi, and this report was released by the Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Dr. Rajiv Kumar. It happened in the presence of the Niti Aayog member Dr. V.K. Paul, Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant, the Health Secretary as well, Preeti Sudan, and representatives from the World Bank. Now, what this report does is it takes a comprehensive look at health in terms of health outcomes, governance and processes, and also impact of policy interventions. So round 2 of this report focuses on measuring and also highlighting the overall performance and incremental improvements in parameters over the 2-year period of 2016-17 and 2017-18 in the states and union territories. And the report has in fact been prepared in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and with technical assistance from the World Bank. And while addressing Niti Aayog, the Vice Chairman Dr. Rajiv Kumar said that Niti Aayog is continuously encouraging states to focus on competition among them.
नीति आयोग में हम लोगों का यही प्रयास है कि कैसे ही बिल्कुल ऑब्जेक्टिव क्राइटेरिया पर हम लोग राज्य सरकारों में एक स्पर्धा काम करें और उसकी वजह से उनको आगे बढ़ने के लिए प्रोत्साहित करें। और जैसा कि आयोग ने बताया कि 1080 का जो टोटल रेट है उसमें 750 हमने आउटपुट आउटकम पे दिया है। और प्रोसेस पे बाकी सब प्रोसेस पे है, तो हमारी जो ध्यान है वो उसी पर लगा हुआ है। और ये कि हम साथ में राज्यों के साथ काम भी करते हैं।
Well, the Reserve Bank of India launched an application on its website for lodging complaints against banks and NBFCs with a view to improve customer experience in timely redressal of grievances. The Complaint Management System, CMS, is a software which is the software application facilitates the RBI's grievance redressal processes, and customers now can lodge complaints against any regulated entity with public interface such as commercial banks, the urban cooperative banks, also the non-banking financial companies or NBFCs. And the complaint would be directed to the appropriate office of the Ombudsman or the regional office of the RBI. And the CMS will in fact be accessible on desktop as well as on mobile devices. So the RBI also plans to introduce a dedicated interactive voice response IVR system for tracking of the status of complaints. Now, the number of willful defaulters has risen 60% in 5 years up to financial year 19, but over 7,600 crore rupees has been recovered from these defaulters. This is what the government has said in a written answer to a question in the Lok Sabha. The Finance Minister Narendra Modi has said that the total number of willful defaulters stood at 8,582. This is at the end of the financial year 19 against 5,349 at the end of financial year 15. So what's a willful defaulter? A willful defaulter is one who has the resources to repay the loan but does not do so intentionally, and in fact deploys that money for other purposes than the intended purposes. So the willful defaulters are not sanctioned additional facilities by banks or financial institutions, and their entities are barred. They are barred from floating any new ventures for 5 years. And let's now go across live to a press briefing by Hardeep Singh Puri, the Minister for Urban Affairs and Housing Affairs. Let's listen to what's happening.
Construction have already begun and 26 lakhs are completed. Sir, Government of India's total commitment so far is nearly 1.26 lakhs crore, out of which 52,000 crore has already been released to the state governments. Next. So the progress under CLSS is tremendous. I mean, starting from there, I mean, we have already close to 6.5 lakhs in the CLSS. Next. Sir, it has been possible not only through the funding but a series of initiatives which will be happy to answer. This slide gives all that which have been done so that Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has taken up this slide. Next. If you compare with the previous 10 years of 2004 to 14, total investment there in the 10 years was just 0.38 lakhs. This is now 4.38 lakhs crore. 4.83 lakhs. 4.83, almost like 5 lakhs crore. Sir, the commitment of the central government is 1.26 lakhs crore. Houses approved is 81 lakhs against 13 lakhs. Construction 9 lakhs only started in 10 years, whereas the 48 lakhs started here, and the completed was only 8 lakhs. In fact, we have completed many of the houses in the last 4-5 years, and here it is 26 lakhs. Next. Sir, I am just giving glimpse, as you say, it's a bouquet of various, I mean, how this is being celebrated across the country. So these are the kind of houses. Next. This is before and after. I mean, the kind of happiness, sir, I am personally witness to across the country. I keep going to the different parts and I am seeing this. So how if they were living in a previous condition, now how they are living in the new houses. Next. Again, this is before and after, sir. This is available to the press. I am sharing with complete press. Next. Sir, similar thing. Next. Same thing again, sir. Next. Sir, this is a kind of a national integration. I mean, this is one scheme across the country from all parts, from north to south, east to west. This has made a big difference in the national integration. Next. Now I am coming to the Amrit scheme, sir, which is the infrastructure scheme. In Amrit scheme, sir, we have sanctioned schemes of nearly 39,000 crores for the water supply, where we will be giving every household one water tap. Sewer septage of nearly 32,500 crores. For stormwater drainage, nearly 3,000 crores. For non-motorized transport, nearly 1,500 crores. And for the urban green spaces, nearly 1,750 crores. This is impacting life of 22 crore population, which accounts for nearly 60+% of the total urban population. Next. Sir,
those are also the total number of votes we got. You know, the total number of beneficiaries in all our schemes put together is 22 crore, and we got 22 crore votes in the 2019 election. I'm not suggesting there is a correlationship or direct only beneficiaries vote, but when you do good work of development and it reaches the ground, it impacts the elections also. That's all. Yeah.
So this I have not seen, sir. This is an observation for me.
When you cross the line to join politics, then this will happen.
Yes.
if you do.
Sir, now, I mean, this gives the number of years. This is, I am fully aware. I used to be principal secretary.
Well, that was a briefing being addressed by the Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, Hardeep Singh Puri, and the Secretary in the Ministry. They were talking mostly about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and investments that have gone in from the central government. Now let's move on to our next story. Well, a political storm is brewing in Rajasthan after a 45-year-old farmer committed suicide at Thakri village in Rajasthan's Sri Ganganagar district. And he left behind a farewell video as well, and a 2-page note accusing the Ashok Gehlot government of failing to honor the pre-poll promise of waiving bank loans. The video on his mobile phone and also was uploaded on Facebook, and before anyone could react, he had already consumed poison and died before he could reach hospital. Megwal is the name of the farmer, blamed Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot and his deputy Sachin Pilot, and that was a note also, and it said that they had promised the loans would be waived off within 10 days of their government coming to power, but they had not kept that promise. The Congress on its part has regretted this incident.
Under investigation, whenever and wherever a person dies or commits suicide, it's absolutely unacceptable to us. It's something that's very regrettable. From whatever limited information I have so far, I've been told that the person was not actually in debt in terms of loans.
And now it's time for us to take a look at all the news that's making news across the globe. US President Donald Trump yesterday signed an executive order putting in place what he called hard-hitting new sanctions on Iran. And the new sanctions, Donald Trump said, will deny the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and other top leaders within the regime access to financial instruments within the US jurisdiction. And this fresh round of sanctions came after Iran shot down a US military drone over what the US has said was international waters. But Donald Trump further said that the sanctions were a strong and proportionate response to Iran's actions, and he promised to continue to increase pressure on Tehran until the regime abandons its dangerous activities and its aspirations, including the pursuit of nuclear weapons. Well, Donald Trump has, however, said that he would be able and open to have talks with the Iranian leadership, but Tehran has rejected such an offer because they want Washington to drop all the sanctions. Well, Washington has repeatedly imposed sanctions on Tehran since last year, when the United States withdrew from the 2015 Iran nuclear deal to curb Iran's nuclear program in exchange for easing of sanctions. Donald Trump's administration had said that that deal, which was struck by his predecessor, Barack Obama, did not do enough. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council has called for dialogue and measures to end tensions in the Gulf. In a unanimous press statement drafted by Kuwait, the Council condemned the recent attacks on oil tankers, calling them a serious threat to maritime navigation and also energy supply and to international peace and security. After a 2-hour closed-door meeting, the Council agreed on a statement that did not single out Iran, but also urged maximum restraint by concerned parties and the countries in the region. And the acting U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Jonathan Cohen, said that Washington's policy on Iran remains an economic and diplomatic effort to bring Iran back to the negotiating table. Cohen also said that he told the 15-member council that the U.S. evidence showed that Iran was to blame for the attacks on commercial tankers in the Gulf region in May and June, and called on the world to tell Iran that it is unacceptable. While Iran's ambassador to the United Nations said that the latest US sanctions against Iran showed that Washington does not respect international law and has also called for dialogue on regional security. And seeking to regain momentum in his bid to become the next Prime Minister of Britain, Boris Johnson has said that he was seriously prepared to take the country out of the European Union in October, even if a deal with the bloc had not been reached. The former London mayor is still the frontrunner in the race to succeed Theresa May. Next month, the Conservative Party members around the UK will choose the next leader of the Tory party, who will become the next Prime Minister. Members will receive their ballots between July 6 and 8, with the new leader expected to be announced in the week beginning July 22. Russian armed forces in the central military district were put on high alert yesterday after Russia's president, the Supreme Commander-in-Chief also, Vladimir Putin, announced drills to test their combat readiness. The Iskander S-300 and S-400 missile systems, also the BTR-82 armored personnel carriers, were seen demonstrating their fighting capabilities and combat readiness in a video footage which was released by the Russian Defense Ministry. Now, these military exercises were intended to ensure military security in the Central Asian region and also to prevent terrorist threats. So the military exercises will conclude, in fact, on June 28. And it's time now in Midday Prime for all the news from the world of sports. And getting us all that news is Suchitra. Over to you, Suchitra.
Well, today England is taking on Australia in Cricket World Cup. Host England have won the toss and elected to field first against arch rivals Australia in their World Cup match at Lord's Cricket Ground today. Despite their second defeat of the league phase following an earlier loss to Pakistan, the tournament hosts remained in the top 4 and on course for a semi-final spot. Five-time champion Australia has won 11 out of their last 12 World Cup matches, with their only defeat against India in this edition.
1 wicket away. Host England have made life hard for themselves in the ICC World Cup 2019 after two uncharacteristic losses to Asian sides Pakistan and Sri Lanka. The number 1 ranked ODI side in the world are now in danger of an early exit if they don't win at least 2 of their remaining 3 games. Starting with the match against traditional rivals Australia at the Lords on Tuesday, England's 3 remaining games are against Australia, New Zealand and India. 3 sides they have not beaten in the World Cup in the past 27 years. Morgan's side though won't care much about that stat, because they would know that this English ODI side is a refreshing change from the one which has been struggling for the last 2 decades. England's problems have been compounded by the absence of Jason Roy from their past 2 matches, with a torn hamstring threatening to sideline the in-form opener from the Australia clash as well. By contrast, Australia have been buoyed by the productive opening partnership between captain Aaron Finch and David Warner, and are second in the table after 5 wins from 6 matches. Mitchell Starc is the joint leading wicket taker at the World Cup, his tally of 15 putting him level with fellow pacemen Jofra Archer of England and Mohammad Amir of Pakistan. But Australia's bowling in support of the left arm has looked vulnerable. So far in 147 matches played between Australia and England, 81 matches were won by Australia, while England managed 61 wins. 2 matches were tied and 3 ended in no result. Heavy and thundery showers might develop, leading to a delayed start. Teams batting first have won 3 of the last 4 games at Lord's, which makes the toss crucial. Leg side, and that is the record, the world record.
The iconic stands of Lord's will neither be empty nor be quiet when host England take on Australia in that big clash on the Mecca of cricket. What's going to be interesting is that England need to bounce back. Australia are dominant, but England need to bounce back after that blip against Sri Lanka and show that they are the number 1 contenders for the World Cup final. With video journalist S. Jayashankar, Anil Thomas, DD News, Lords.
And for more information, we are joined by our correspondent Anil Thomas. Anil, England has elected to field first. They lost their 2 matches while chasing. So how do you look at this decision, even though the conditions are overcast?
Well, a big gamble by Ian Morgan, purely going by an unchanged squad that lost to Sri Lanka. That's not all, taking the gamble of chasing yet again. They have lost 2 games, but remember, overcast conditions here in Lords, so the captain clearly forced to take this call, in case Duckworth Lewis comes into play, or for that matter, it's cloudy across London. So, sweaters are back, and, you can feel that, there is a bit of cover on the track. So maybe he's looking at his bowlers to exploit conditions. And just like, India banged on their bowlers to deliver against Afghanistan the other day, the English captain is too banking on his bowlers to do the, to deliver the goods for him. Push Australia back on the mat, take early wickets, put them, stop them at a very low score, and then maybe make a match of it. But, you've got to keep your fingers crossed. Surely a big gamble by the English captain Ian Morgan to chase yet again in another game.
And Nathan Leo and Jason Behrendorff feature in Australia's squad. So what do we expect from the track? What do you see? How much score will be enough for England against Australia? For Australia against England, sorry.
Well, in this World Cup, I wouldn't say any score. In this World Cup, you shouldn't say that any score is enough or any score is, safe. Having said that, Pakistan played South Africa on this very track. Pakistan scored 300 plus, so this track looks beautifully set for the batsmen. Yes, Australia making 2 changes, Zampa making way for Nathan Leo to come in. So it's a spinner replacing a spinner, and then you have Nathan Coutinal going out and Jason coming into the lineup. So Australia haven't done much. They have just altered with the bench strength and tried to give other bowlers and a game out there against England. Australia is also looking at the Ashes in August. So clearly the focus is just not the World Cup, but they're looking ahead too. So they're trying to give the players who have not got an exposure in this particular game, and that's not how Australia are sitting comfortable. So they can take the liberty of going ahead and making changes and changes that could suit them. So but for English team, that's not the way. England team have to be a bit more cautious in the approach. The last 3 games that they have are all against the top 3 teams, along with England in the top 4 in the points table. So England don't have that liberty to breathe easy. But let's wait and watch how things pan out. Australia surely had the upper hand purely in terms of the way they have played this World Cup. England have lost to Sri Lanka. Let's wait and watch whether they bounce back today against Australia and and take their points tally to 10, and then maybe we could just keep our fingers crossed and hope that England lose to India, and it could again be trouble for the English team. So they don't have their journey cut out very clearly. Yes. Those 2 losses pretty early in the tournament in the first 6 matches turning to be very crucial for them. They will have to get their journey back on track. We'll have to wait and watch whether it's against the Australians that they do it.
Anil, Steve Smith and David Warner, Australia will depend on them to post a big total, but they have to deal with the crowd also, apart from English bowlers.
See, I'll tell you, the Lord's crowd is, you would say this is why it's called the gentleman's game. It's a mecca of cricket, and you expect the crowd here, the crowd will cheer every run that is made, irrespective whether it's come from the Australian below or it comes from the English batsman. The people who watch the game, who come to watch the game at the Lords, also represent the Melbourne Cricket Ground, and they are a part of the Middlesex. Generally, Middlesex County is home at the Lords. So a lot of people who understand the game and who understand the integrity of the game of cricket. So you're going to see good sensible crowd there cheering every run. It's not going to be favoring one side or the other, but surely Australia would feel a bit hostile considering they're playing away from home and England are playing at home. But that's all fair. It's all fair in cricket. You are a professional unit. You have come to win the World Cup for the 6th time. England aiming for their first World Cup. So it's all even Stevens. Just like they say, it's all fair in love and war. It's all fair. I would add, it's all fair in love, war, and cricket.
Well, yes, Anil, you just enjoy this great game of cricket. Thank you so much for all those inputs. And let's go live to a press conference where Minister Hardeep Singh Puri is addressing the media.
With an Aadhaar number. In the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, I've been a great admirer of this scheme. I say up front that I had the privilege of walking into this ministry when the ecosystem was designed. Our primary task, my task, was to implement it. So full credit to those who devised the scheme. But you know, some of you, they're not here anymore, used to ask me cynically when I joined in September 2017, you know, you got such little time, what will you be able to do it? I'm not used to speaking in terms of I, me, we up front, but I should say, let's see. But I can tell you, in the time between September 2017 and now, if you look at the figures in Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, we've sanctioned 81 lakh homes. Out of these 81 lakh homes, there are something like 48 lakhs which are in various stages. The technologies which are using are those where after the grounding it should take not more than 15-18 months to complete. I am confident, and I'm saying this on the record, that as against a target completion date of 2022, I am more or less confident that we can have all the sanctioning done. You will bear me out, Joint Secretary? First quarter of 2020, and more or less completion by end of 2020, because those which are grounded will be done well before that, and the remaining will also do. So in other words, a 2022 scheme we are hoping to get done in terms of all sanctioning within the first few months of 2020 and all completed, handed over by the end of 2020. Now that's a great achievement. Now I come to another aspect. The CLSS figures are really phenomenal. Now CLSS, if you know, there were doubting Thomases on that in the beginning also. People used to say, how will this work? You know, should we give the entire amount of the subsidy upfront, or should we stagger it during the duration of the purchase? And I think Secretary and I have stood our ground, including in pretty intense sort of discussion, and we turned around and said, no, for a young professional or somebody who's aspiring to get a house, to be able to get the 3% or whatever is available upfront, and thereby reduce the burden of the interest payment, this EMI, this kind of subvention is very important, and it's producing results. Amrut, again, I am delighted with the figures. If you look at the overall figures, we have state act plans for 77,640 crores approved. Out of this, 32,456 is for sewage and septage, 39,000 crores for water supply, and nearly 3,000 crores for stormwater drainage. Now, in a country of India's size, with 1.3 billion population and 4,500 cities, you can turn around and say, well, your Amrut scheme is only 500 cities with a population over 1 lakh, which means total urban coverage of about 65% or so. But the good news here is that idea has caught on. Today, when the Jal Shakti Ministry has been established, the new narrative which is emerging, I started some of the narrative earlier by saying, look, I have to bring an Amrut Plus. I think that idea is catching on, but what is also catching on, as part of Jal Shakti, we will have water in every tap, in every household in the country. And I think that's the quantum jump. Just as in case of Swachhta, we're not celebrating an anniversary of Swachhta, but just as in case of Swachhta, the idea has caught on and it's become a people's movement from being a project of the government. Again, in Amrut, I think water is the new top priority, and I'm very confident. I can tell you, I'm very proud when the Prime Minister made a message, gave a message a few days ago on water conservation. The district that I have adopted, Sonbhadra, there the people got together and they put together all the wherewithal and infrastructure for water collection, conservation, etc. I now come to the Smart Cities project. And here again, if you want to be cynical, you say, well, this is only 100. But no, that's not the real story. If by December of 2019, you have 50 integrated command and control centers ready, 70 by the end of next year, look what you've done in terms of quantum jump, in terms of implementation. It is, where's Kunal? I think it's one of the fastest implemented projects. And now that people see the individual projects which are already there, you have now, from what I can make out, projects worth about 16,000 crores completed and handed over, another 70,000 which are ongoing, and another 50,000 which are at the tendering stage. So, if you have a total of 130,000 crores, 134,000 crores of projects going on. It's a lot of economic activity, but more than that, this is the use of technology to give you an indication of the shape of what cities will look like later. And I think that's really a good news.
In fact, sir, I'll just to inform you, we are going to treat actual films of the transformation of the cities. Nearly 50 films will be treated by the end of the day today. We have shot in different smart cities, and if you follow our tweets, you will see these actual films of 2 minute to 5 minute duration.
No, I want to, I could go on with statistics, but I think we are going to, the press note is going to have or contain all that. You're going to be flooded, circulate kar diya press note. Within 2 minutes, okay. You're going to get all these facts and figures. Apart from the question and answers and exchange, which I think is important, I want to say that this has been a tremendous cooperative effort. I want to pay a tribute to all my colleagues. I see my team from Gangtok, I see from Shillong, from Moradabad. We could not have got these figures, guys, unless you chaps had put your heart and soul in it. So my compliments to you. And I mean not just the guys whose names I'm taking, but those are the ones I can see on the screen after I strain myself. But I'm coming to that. I'm coming. All the states, all the union territories, everybody,
all the cities,
and all the cities,
smart cities,
all the smart cities, everyone is there. But I also want to take this opportunity to pay a big thank you and a very warm, effusive expression of gratitude to my colleagues in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, led by the Secretary Durga Shankar Mishra, the project directors. Because look, I have to be especially careful, because look, there is always a tendency for some of us to say that, I discovered the wheel when I came on here. And that is a shortcut to creating problems. We have found in some places where there has been a change of government, hopefully only temporarily, they come and say they want to redevise the scheme. You know what happens? They run the existing scheme down and then they pay a heavy price for it later. I can tell you, the existing schemes of the previous government, and JNURM is a classic case. Modi ji's government was elected in May 2014, but I can tell you we continued JNURM till March 2017. We never stopped it at any stage. It's a different thing that the figures are pretty disappointing. I mean, total number of homes that were constructed under JNURM was
8 lakhs.
Huh?
8 lakhs.
8 lakhs. And we have done 81.
26 were completed, sir, already.
No, that's a separate issue. But if you look at, that's a 10-year period. That's the point I make. In 10-year periods, if you get 8 lakhs of home, and we have, our scheme is actually not 5 years. Because whilst we are giving you this figure of 10 crores, 38 lakhs for the 5-year period, the schemes actually began only in June of 2015. So it's over a 4-year period. So big thank you to the Secretary and his team here.